Hey there, how you guys doing? It is great to see you guys today on episode 600. That's like a lot of episodes. It's a lot of talking, a lot of you and me and Shana mixed in there, and it's been a great run, right? So we are here today live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So thank you guys for joining us. One of the important things here with TNT each day is that we do roll call. So what we like to do is ask you guys if you're present. Please chat in. We're creating this habit, this routine, this way of doing things each morning where we get up, we get started, we get into this stuff. We're able to like start time blocking. We do the hardest thing next. We do some social posts. We follow up with people. We make these calls. We do all of that stuff. And that's what roll call is all about, is to make sure that you're present and attentive. So in addition to just being here and typing your name in, you're actually paying attention. And if the topic is appropriate for you, then you're hearing it, you're understanding it, and you're participating in it. You're chatting in, you're talking about things and being interactive, right? And if the topic's not necessarily perfect for you today, if you're like, hey, I don't really need that right this second, just make a mental note that we cover that topic, and you can go right back to our website, and you can just type in a search phrase, and there it is. You'll be able to find it, right? So that's the whole idea. These are things that you can go out, you can share on TNT Tuesdays, that you can dream about on Can't Stop, Won't Stop Wednesdays. We have all these different names, like Monday, we have Merch Store Monday, and we're super excited to have all this different merch that we're able to have out there for the company and related to TNT. So thank you guys for all chatting in and saying that you are present on roll call. And if anybody is a new individual for the first time, we are super happy to have you. Cheers and here's to you. Thanks for joining us. We like to do that every single day and have new people here. So just tell us who you are. If you want to interact, just reach out. I like talking to new people, as does my wife. So just like reach out and say, hey, that was a decent show. Or even tell me like, hey, that was horrible. Totally good with that as well, right? Just if you're on YouTube, go down there and just jam on the subscribe button. You'll get a notice each morning that we're going to go live at 8:45 a.m. Central Time. So that is that. We do have a reminder that it is Thursday, and we do have agent meetings today. There's one final shot to get in with Megan. Megan has her topic for the week, and that is how to accelerate and grow your social media. So if you want to grow your social media, Megan's going to be talking about that today at 10 a.m. If you missed any of the previous meetings that you could have attended, then jump in today. If you haven't attended either and you can't attend today, then you're either like super busy or like kind of shame on you for missing that. And if you want, you can go back to the meeting and you can rewatch it because they're all recorded. How good's that? So make sure that you get all that stuff covered, and let's not be asking questions that we already covered during the agent workshops. But they are workshops meant to be interactive. So if you're present, you get to interact and do things and discuss and complete. That's the whole idea of a workshop. It's not necessarily a meeting, it's a workshop, so we're intending on getting amazing things done. So today we have two topics. Topic number one for today is going to be summer of 2021. That's right now. Is it inflation? Or is it a temporary price disruption? I'm going to talk about that and see what you guys think. I want to have a lot of interaction. You can tell me things that have went up in price, and you can say like, hey, this has went up, and here's what's going on, and here's my challenges, right? So we'll talk about all that. So have some items that have went up in price ready for you and chat those in at the ready as soon as we get to those. And then item number two is going to be some career advice and what paying it forward means. So I do have a funny story for you there on paying it forward. My sister Amy will probably get a kick out of that bad boy, but that's paying it forward and what it means and what you should be doing in your career. Some minor things that you could do there. And we do have a real estate word of the day. That was something we started not too long ago. I would say we're, 50 words into the real estate dictionary, and today's real estate word of the day is going to be inflation. So we'll discuss that bad boy in reasonable depth. We'll define it using its sentence and quickly discuss it. I do not have Shana here with me today. She has a previous engagement. You guys can ask her about that directly. That's not for me to share, but go ahead and ask away. See what's going on there. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're all about ready to go. Let's hit the bell and go to topic number one. Hey, it's summer of 2021. Is it inflation? I don't know. Or is it a temporary price disruption? What does that even mean? Right? What's going on right now? Everything seems to be going up in price. And you're worried like, is my money not going to be able to buy me as much of these normal goods that I would, this same basket of goods? So we're going to talk about how a free market economy generally fixes itself, how capitalism is a real thing, how there's substitute goods, how there's something called equilibrium. We're going to talk about yo-yo price effects and how that goes into effect. We're going to talk about that things might actually go lower in the future. I don't know. We're talking about, is it really hackers and sabotage and some other things that are playing a big role in here? Or is it just opportunistic people? There's a bunch of different items all rolled into this ball called inflation. And we're going to discuss that right now. My name's Mike Acquisto, and I'm a real estate broker by day and a thinker by evening. And let's go ahead and talk about what we have here with inflation. So with inflation, we're going to take a look at an article. We're going to chat that link into you, and I actually have two different links that we're going to kind of discuss. So Omkar, if you would, let's go ahead and pull that bad boy up and see what we got. So I have two links. Let's go with the first one that's there with the moneytalksnews.com article. So I'll let you grab that one real quick, and perfect. So if we scroll down here, what we have, scroll down just a little bit, and we'll see what we get here. Whoa. All right, looks like I put the wrong link in there. So that's not going to really help us out there. What I'm going to do is just briefly discuss the items then and see what's going on. I definitely didn't want to discuss the 3 best vacuum cleaners that are going on out there. So maybe Omkar, if you would, just go ahead and grab me a link on items that have been hit by inflation in 2021. I don't know how I chatted in that wrong link, but you'll pull that up here in just a second for me. But let's talk about the free market and kind of how it fixes itself. So what we have right now is we just got done with this whole virus thing right here in the US, and we had all types of disruptions, and people had a choice on what to do. So I'll tell you how we reacted to this big major event, right? So what we did is we stopped spending completely, and we went into like this deep freeze. And then in doing so, we were sincerely nervous, and we had no idea. And we were holding on super tight to every single deal that we had. And we're like, I don't know, are we ever going to close any more transactions? What's going to take place? And then what we saw was deals kept closing, and just about every single thing closed. And all of a sudden our bank account built up. And we got to this place in this weird spot where like new business just continued to come in. And it wasn't a huge disruption if you actually look at it business-wise. I mean, it was a disruption for sure, and we had to do things differently, but like business just continued on. And you felt bad and you felt weird, and there was all these types of things that happened, but from an actual business standpoint, and you look at like revenue and whatever, you would hardly notice what happened. And you might be like, something happened, but it wasn't a big deal. And now business is actually back, and it's up more than it was last year, year over year. So was there an event? I don't know from a business perspective. So that was how we reacted to it. But a lot of people took and did different items, like they're going to shut down their factory. They're going to lay off people, right? There was actions that people took. And those actions, when they take them, takes a long time to start those back up. So sometimes when you put things into mothballs, or you freeze it, or you sell it, or you don't renew the lease, or whatever that happens to be, right? You don't buy that new piece of equipment. It becomes difficult to get started back up. So to move that ball takes a long time. And I think we're seeing that in a lot of different places, right? So those are some of the items that are really affecting us now, is to restart that. You know, we've seen different problems with whether it's in cars and automobiles and the chips, whether it is in video processors, that there's a problem there, whether it's with computers that we needed a lot more of them all of a sudden. There's this huge demand because everyone started to go to work from home and all these students were at home, and computer sales are up like crazy, right? It's a weird thing. Think about this before this event took place, right? How long did you have your computer for? Right? You look at your desktop and you're like, oh, my computer's fine. Like I use it. It kind of became an internet machine. And all you did was go to the internet on your computer. So people were extending the lifetime of their desktop. Then all of a sudden you get in the situation, well, you're like, no, I'm going to work from home and my kids are home and I need multiple devices and whatever that is. So computer sales were through the roof. So that causes a problem, supply down the road, right? Because it just changed dramatically. But what happens with each one of these different items is there's an equal and opposite reaction, because we here in the US have a free market economy and things will bounce back. So what happens is we may run into one of these things called a yo-yo effect. So that's a real thing, and it's kind of like a rubber band when it gets stretched a little bit. So imagine, I guess, talking about computers here, right? All of a sudden we had this demand on computers, and people are like, we need more of them, right? There's more work from home, there's more kids at home, so we need more computers. So there's a rush on all the components that go into it. So everybody starts ramping up, and they ramp up, right? And now we have all these new parts, new suppliers, new things, new technologies, a lot of advancements that kind of went on during that time frame. And then people buy these, but now there's a huge demand. So the supply catches up to it. But what happens sometimes is you have a supply that continues to accelerate, and people get better and better at things. It goes like all the way off the charts. And we have this rubber band effect, and it's like pulled and stretched. And then all of a sudden what happens is we don't need as much demand anymore, because we're not going to like always need to buy those things at the same exact rate once they're kind of purchased. But we built up all this extra supply. We had people that jumped into this business. right? Do you think that there's as much PPE that's being purchased right now as there was exactly a year ago? I don't know. That would be something you could look up. And imagine all these companies that jump in to respond, right? And they started all these new businesses and they bought all this new equipment and they ramp up and they're like, oh, this is going to be a thing, right? And they ramp it up and ramp it up. And now we have all this production and capacity. And then all of a sudden we have this rubber band effect where we don't need as much anymore. So now what happens? So the price is going to drop because all of a sudden this stuff is there. And we have all these masks and you're like, well, I'm not buying them at the same rate I was before. People aren't hoarding them. There's not this stuff going on. So now all of a sudden we have this like price reduction in the future. So we're talking about, is it inflation or is it more of a temporary price disruption, right? So what I think you have here is each of these different items were hit in different ways. So whether it's lumber that we hear the price is going up, do we think in 5 years that we really have a lumber problem, right? These different components. So there's glue that goes into it. There's shortages on, all these different components, whether it's like cars, right? Do you think that in 5 years from now, there's a shortage of cars? You think like we don't have enough cars in 5 years? I don't know. I don't think so. I think we'll get back to it. Gasoline prices went right back up and spiked back up. Why? Because things are happening now. There's more shipping now. There's more stuff. So we'll make up for it. These things will come back. And what I think you'll see is that humans adapt and adapt really quickly. And what you're going to have is that we had temporary price disruptions. We also had some extremely untimely things that also started happening. Is we had opportunistic people who did all types of different attacks. So we had hackers and hijacks and people who were doing like ransomware, and that was going on for like the gas lines and the pipelines and for the electric grid, and there was different things there. So now we had price spikes over there because we had these problems. But that is completely different than the virus. They're unrelated items. And are those going to continue? I don't know. I'm actually more worried about them long term than I am of some of the supply problems that we currently have. Because for those you can't predict. But what we're going to see is there's going to be more chip plants built. There's probably going to be way more chip plants built than they need. There's going to be more capacity added on for each one of these different items. And we're going to have this rubber band effect. And we will have the same basket of goods that goes up in cost short term. But then I think we're going to have this relaxation of what actually takes place. And all of a sudden, we'll go back the other way and maybe we'll have deflation. So when you look over a period of time, I don't know, is there going to be something that goes on inflationary? Well, yes, of course, we're reopening the economy. We went from like a gangbusters economy to like hitting the emergency brake as hard as you could, just grabbing it and like holding on to anything and like Fred Flintstone style and putting your feet down and trying to stop it with anything you could, right? Like go home, don't leave your house, like everybody, the whole world stop. Yes, of course the economy was bad. So now it's starting back up and we ramp this back up and there's going to be a problem. And there's all these different items that were in short supply. And we have opportunistic people because they happen to be sitting in this seat and all of a sudden things come to them and they're like, I have the item that everybody needs. Like who needed hand sanitizer before this, right? Was that really a thing? There was like all these germaphobes who had like this tiny little one. But there was all these opportunistic people and all of a sudden they're like, I have the hand sanitizer and today's the day that everybody needs it. So I'm just going to raise my price, right? Do we think long-term that hand sanitizer is going to be an expensive item? Do we think it's going to cost a lot more, right? We see all these things kind of starting to come down in price. So we had the lumber that went like way up and it's like, oh, it's never going to stop. It's never going to come down. Well, all of a sudden there's substitute items for that. So you talk about lumber and you'd use a lot of it for, for building. And then there's substitute building materials. So for the wall, for the studs, there's steel that you can use. So in commercial projects, you have that. So it's only going to go so high because there's a substitute item. And then that will come in and adjust for it, right? We have other items. So plywood went up. Now there's recycled plastics that are composite, that are similar to plywood, that are stronger and cheaper and recycled and maybe a better use for, and you're not cutting down the tree, and you start looking at all those things and you're like, is that more eco-friendly to use something like this? It won't rot. There's no risk of destruction from something like termites. So is that a better alternative? Humans are pretty ingenious. You'll see a lot of adjustments. Whenever there's an opportunity, the opportunity will be filled, that void will be complete. And what you'll see is probably going to go back the other way. So that's my prediction for you. There's going to be a lot of yo-yoing in prices. Prices are going to be up short term. But if you look over the course of 5 years and we look back and we're going to be like, huh, that was weird. But I don't think we're going to have any hyperinflation. So inflation is to do with this same basket of goods. So now I do have this link over here. We're going to show the second link on the Consumer Price Index and show you what this basket of goods is. So there's this arbitrary basket of goods that has to deal with inflation, and it's how much money does it cost me to buy this basket of goods. And it's all these different consumer goods. And if we take a look over here, what we're going to see is there's been a huge change in one of the big categories. So this categories went up like crazy. And what it is over the last 12 months, we've had a huge change in energy cost. Well, yeah, no one drove a year ago. Everyone was locked up and staying at home and no one was doing anything. So we didn't drive. And remember when oil actually went negative, when you had to pay people to take it for like this, I don't know, several hour time frame, oil had a negative value for some of these future contracts. Well, that's gone. Oil seems to be right back up where it was. We have all these things going on, right? Like we have EVs and everything else, and then somehow you look up and you're like, there's still a lot of oil being used. So as we look at this is one of the biggest changes for us, and that's the biggest kind of jump that sticks out to me. And as I look at that, I kind of think it's kind of logical. So what we had over the last quarter was a 5% inflation rate. And then we look at that, and is that kind of logical when you restart an economy? When you go from like being on life support to being, let's go do everything with all this pent up demand, it kind of only makes sense. So what do I lead to at the end? You're probably sitting there and you're thinking like, what does Mike really think? Maybe not. Maybe you're not thinking that. But if I look at it, I see temporary disruptions. I see bigger threats actually, with things being shut down due to hackers and sabotage and international type events there. I see weird things that we had happen recently, like fires taking this out, wildfire doing this. All those things cause huge disruptions as well, right? I think we're going to have enough chlorine over a period of time. I think we'll adjust from this. We went to this global economy of things being super cheap, relative, because they were all produced at the lowest price place, and they were centralized into like one location across the world. So when something happens there, we have this disruption. I don't think that's going to continue. I think we'll maybe get a little bit smarter, and we may have a couple of smaller ones across the globe to make up if these things take place. And there's going to be opportunistic people who want to make money, because after all, we do live in a free market economy, and these things will all repair themselves, and we will be just fine. Inflation, my friends, that's my thought. Today, I'm sorry, I talked way too long. Today's real estate word of the day is inflation. Let's go ahead and define that, use it in a sentence, and quickly discuss it. So inflation is the general increase in prices and falling of purchasing value of money. The same consumer basket of goods costs more over time due to inflation. Inflation may be slow and steady or steep and hyper, depending on the economics of the economy or of the currency. So that's the definition. And to use it in a sentence, Mike thinks inflation, I don't know. Maybe there's other bigger problems out there that we have. Maybe we can look on the bright side. Maybe we can say like, oh damn, we have super great interest rates right now. Oh wow, we worked past this. Hey there, we kind of have a vaccine. Let's look past all these other things and like quit looking at the one negative item over here in the corner. And let's look at like the hundreds of amazing items. Who wants to start traveling again? Right? Who wants to get out there? A lot of people. Inflation? That's a quick discussion of it. Well, that's a wrap for today. We only discussed one topic, but I discussed it in depth. I hope you really enjoyed that one. I put a lot of thought into that for you. And, I didn't have the one article to pull up that I really wanted to show the things that had went up in price and what the inflationary problems were. But some of them were like chlorine, lumber. You guys were each pretty good and chatted in some different items that had went up in prices. And, for all the agents out there, I hope things like getting your nails done and massages didn't go up in price. And I hope that you can enjoy yourself and be refreshed over the next couple of days and the weekend. So please enjoy yourself. Remember that tomorrow is going to be Friday, and we'll have Show Me Your Listings with Shana tomorrow on her Zoom room. So please participate in that bad boy and get your clients some stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. Let's get out of here. That was 600. That's a lot of episodes. All right, well, this will be quick.
Yeah.
I can't
We'll
even...
have that link. We'll have that link in the description so that people could refer to later.
Yeah, I know. I totally screwed that one up. Like, the 3 best vacuum cleaners to buy are... What?
Nobody wants to buy vacuum cleaners now.
Apparently not. All right, let's get some.
All right. Yeah. So, inflation or price disruption
Yep,
was the topic.
let's do it. I got a pair of scissors.
Yeah. So, it's coming up. And now. All right. And inflation.
These are a great pair of scissors. I bought these and I really like them. They're made in Pakistan. They're 8-inch scissors, but they're like super sturdy, and I have them in my desk and no one steals them. I don't know why, but it's been one of the best ones I've had. And then inflation, I got a knife, my letter opener.
All right. Now.
Done. Hey, thanks a lot for today. I appreciate it. I hope it was as good as for you as it was for me. I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy.